Today we're going to be visiting Castle Grayskull and Roko, France, and a whole bunch of things in between. Ryan, what time is it?
It's time for crowd control. And we'll start today's journey in Roko, France. This is the game Fleur. This is from the makers of Botany, if you remember that. It had you going all around the world collecting flowers. It was a giant, huge game. Well, now they're bringing it kind of narrow down to one specific garden. This is a game about building out a fancy garden in the fancy Roko period.
You're throwing a party or something,
right?
Yeah,
of course. That was a big thing to do back then, was those garden parties, and your job is to have the best garden, because we know in Roko time period, fashion and looks was like all that mattered. So
I mean, if you've played Roko, you get the idea.
Correct. This is a great. This has nothing to do with Roko.
No, it does not.
It's set in that same time period, though. So you've got the fancy dresses, the beautiful garden parties, and you're collecting flowers to add to your specific garden. And again, like we said, Botany was such a huge success. They brought in that same kind of look, style, commitment to component quality to this game. Again, this is another incredibly gorgeous game. It has some Kickstarter exclusive expansions you can get with it, and even like a kid's version of the game that you can play with your family. It's La Petite de la Fleur, something like that. I don't know.
That's how it's pronounced in French.
I don't know.
I had a chance to take a look at this game on the table, and it is really cool. It's got that interesting aesthetic where the board and a lot of the components are kind of like monotone, almost black and white.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then the cards, which are mainly the flowers, but also people you're like inviting to your party.
Your guests.
Which brings sort of the color to it. So it's a nice contrast.
And it's a little fun. Check out their video too. Their video is just a ton of fun.
Their trailer's one of the funnest Kickstarter trailers I've seen in a long time. The next one we want to talk about is called Children of Morta. If you're a video game fan, you may have heard about this. This is an indie game that came out, I don't know, a handful of years ago now. This is a roguelike where you're playing in this family. So as you take runs, I believe in the video game anyway, you're playing sort of the next person, the descendant in the family line. In this game, you are playing cooperatively against all these creatures that are coming at you, but the big mechanic at play here is bag building.
And simultaneous bag building.
Simultaneous play in general. You're going to be building a bag with these little chips. You pull out the chips. You're going to be activating powers that you have on your player board. Those powers are going to have cards that you can play on them to upgrade those powers. You're basically color coordinating the chips. So you pull a yellow chip, you can use it on a yellow power, but you can also use any two chips to basically create a wild color to fire off these things. You have the enemies that are kind of like being populated above your individual player boards. So you have to take out those enemies because they kind of move along with you. This does have that sort of roguelike quality where you're moving to a node, you're discovering some things at that node, and then you want to determine, do we want to push forward as fast as possible to get to the end of the run, so to speak? Or do we want to level up a little bit and go over here, maybe get some things that'll benefit us when we do get towards the end?
It's a cool table presence. It's a cool idea for a game. I mean, I love that they've taken it cooperatively instead of competitively for one thing. And another one, which is a great, huge table presence. So those two are both running right now, but we wanted to talk about two brand new games launching this week. Before we do, a word from our special guest.
Thank you so much for having me on Crowd Control. Hello everybody, my name is Ilya. I'm one half of Kavri, a channel that talks about board games and all the joy that's in them. Now, for my two recommendations this week, the first one I have is Kinfire Council. Now, this one was already on a previous Crowd Control episode, so I won't say too much, but I will say, as somebody who enjoys worker placements, heavy strategy games, this one is just mwah. I encourage you to check out the page, and you may see a familiar name in all the daily updates that are happening, and maybe this person right here. But self-promotion aside, I do have another project I'd love to talk about, and that is Keystone North America 2nd Edition. Now, I got to play this game when it was the first edition. I absolutely fell in love with it. You're placing a grid and creating a biome of habitats with different animals, plants, and trying to score the most points through really clever strategic play. Now, this is the 2nd edition that's for 2 players only, and there's also an expansion that's coming in this campaign that adds a little bit more crunchy strategy for you to score more points and a little bit more variability. You gotta love it, you wanna see it. There's otters in this one, which is always a huge plus. But if either of these projects sound appealing to you, I encourage you to check them out. There's a lot of love and passion that's gone into both of these projects. I know the designers personally, and I would recommend you to support and follow these lovely two projects. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you very much for that, Ilya. I got to meet Ilya and Tyler at Adam earlier this year. Really got to get to know them. Really fun to hang out with. And like I'm glad we could have you here on Crowd Control.
All right, well, we're going to continue our journey to a game that's launching like this week, maybe even already based on when you're watching this.
Yeah.
This is taking us to a fantasy world, and that is Feudum. This game is absolutely insane. I'll just flat out say that.
It is a beast of a game.
If you know what Feudum is, then you already kind of know what I'm talking about. It is this gigantic sandboxy world where everybody is kind of contributing to operating the world in a different way. You've got like the farmer who's making food that other people need. You've got the shipbuilder that's building ships, like all these different roles that you're playing. Meanwhile, you're moving around this giant board. You're collecting or controlling these different areas, building feudums and castles, like, because there's so much going on.
That's true. We covered this game years ago, and they're bringing it back now to Gamefound. The initial thing that really drew us to this, the look of it has almost like a Monty Python-esque look to it. Has really interesting artwork, but like Ryan said, it's got everything in the kitchen sink going on. And it is, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as a traditional Euro, but it is definitely like a heavy Euro.
It does have Euro-y mechanics mixed in with some of the stuff you'd expect to find. Like there's a little bit of exploration or moving around a board and controlling areas. There's combat. You're fighting against other players. There's feeding your people, which is very Euro-y. And like you've got tons of expansions that they've come out with, including like new modes of transportation. Like it's a experience. I'll say that.
It is a beefy game. It took us a while. I remember trying to learn this game, and it was something learning. It's a heavy game, so if you're looking for a heavy, interesting, unique, one-of-a-kind experience at the table.
Right. It's not like anything you'll play. And because of that, this has become kind of a cult classic in some senses. People have been trying to get their hands on it. And really, the only way to get it was if you happen to be at a convention that they were at and they were selling it at conventions. But now they're bringing it back to crowdfunding so you can kind of get that whole experience again if you've missed out on it. I mean, again, this isn't like one of my favorite games just because of how unique it is. And I'd like to, play it at least once a year. You set a Saturday aside and just kind of go for it.
It is a set a Saturday aside sort of game. Not that it's like crazy long, but it's not a short game.
No, but it's a really difficult game to describe. Yeah. It's an experience for sure.
The last one, or really second to last one we want to talk about, is Masters of the Universe Battleground. This is one that has come back to Gamefound for one main reason, I think, and that's because they now have the rights to sell it to people outside of Europe. I think it was just Europe before. So now they've got North America, I think Australia, a couple other territories, so the game is available. This is a skirmish-based miniatures game based on Masters of the Universe. So think, very strict skirmish sort of game where you have your characters, you've got your cards and your special abilities, and you're just fighting each other.
Yeah, but the game itself just looks amazing on the table too.
I want painted miniatures for sure.
The miniatures are fantastic, and every set also comes with terrain, and you kind of are building out. You've got these maps, but you're adding terrain pieces to them. Like it's like it looks like you've dedicated a lot more time to building out your game than you probably have, because a lot of that stuff just comes with it.
Yeah, these kind of games have generally not been in my wheelhouse. This is like, when you see like skirmish Warhammer-y sort of games and things like that, they've always been intriguing to me. And while I'm not like the biggest even Masters of the Universe fan personally, man, seeing the painted versions of the miniatures, which we don't have, just to be clear, they did send us a copy of the game to check out. We are probably going to have some other content on it. And the miniatures are also on sprues. It's
a full-on miniatures game.
This is a full-on miniatures game. You're not going to pull out miniatures that are completely done. You put them together. And man, the ones that are painted on the box, it makes me want to actually have someone professionally paint them.
Because
if they can look like that, that would be awesome.
And as David said, this is the first time that this game is available in the United States and those territories. It's a little bit of a weird situation because when they originally launched, they only launched, and I know some people did try to get it and like have it imported and like people send it over, whatever. They're still in the process of kind of fulfilling all of the different waves of content for that campaign. So this is a chance as well for people in the new territories to get on board. You'll get all the previously released content, like right
And
away
there's
almost.
waves upon waves of that
and then,
content too.
and then you'll be getting the next set of waves. I don't remember exactly how many waves have already fulfilled, but they said like whatever is coming, the next couple waves, then you'll be like back on par with the rest of the world, getting all the new content as it comes out, which is a kind of cool place to be if you're a fan of the game.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is not to be confused with the Simon Masters of the Universe game, which is a completely different game in its own right, and also very big.
Yeah.
But this is a different one from Archon.
Yep.
So be sure to check it out.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to mention, this is coming from Japanime Games, which is a company I work for, so I'm not going to harp on it a ton, but it's called Oshi Push.
I don't work for them, by the way.
It's a new CCG. The reason I'm even mentioning it to our fan base is because it was designed by Justin Gary, who is one of my favorite designers. We've had him on the channel. He designed Soulforge Fusion. Recently,
Ascension.
It's Ascension, Ascension Tactics, which we've covered. He's basically like one of the go-to guys for CCG. So as an employee of Japanime who does marketing, it's great for me to be able to say, hey, Justin Gary designed this game. And I've actually gotten a chance to play it. He invited me to come play it with him just because he knows I'm a fan of his stuff. And it's a lot of fun, so I'm excited for it.
It's set in an interesting...
Yeah, it's an interesting theme. It's VTubers, which is not...
It's not even something I was familiar with.
I wasn't either. I was like, what is this world of VTubers? But it's huge. They're like virtual, almost like cartoony anime characters.
Imagine watching us right now, but we were cartoon animated
we should do
characters.
it. We should do a whole series.
We're not going to be changing MVM
but
to
it's
a
wild.
VTube
This
channel.
technology, they have special cameras that look at their face, and as they talk and gesture, their little animated thing like...
I looked into it.
It's so weird.
You
It's
can
wild.
basically buy these things so you can like have this avatar, and we could be doing this exact same video, but it's like two anime characters.
Yeah, and they have
doing it.
like millions of followers.
Yep.
And there are like organizations. We have partnered with FaZe Connect, which is a whole stable of VTubers. There's even channels in Japan that deliver the news with VTubers instead of real people.
It's taking over.
It's wild.
We're not going to be here very much longer.
I mean, you don't have to, I can see it. You don't have to worry about how your hair looks that day, or you could let your beard grow out. Nobody ever sees what you look like. And in fact, some of these VTubers, not to get off track, no one's ever seen what they look like in real life. Like, they've never made public appearances, so it's like it could be anybody.
What if
could be you.
What if we're actually not real humans? We're actually anime
One
avatars
day,
doing this.
One day, this could all be AI.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. Anyway, that's what's going on this week, last week, and next week in crowdfunding. If you have any questions at all, please make them in the comments below. We'll get down there, answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.
Bye.